They didn't break your mind, they just convinced you it was already broken. You reach for your keys on the kitchen counter. They're not there. You check the drawer. Nothing. You check your coat pocket. Nothing. And then the person standing behind you, the person who loves you, the person you trust more than anyone in your life, says something that hits different every single time. Babe. You left them in the car again. You've been doing this a lot lately. I'm actually starting to get a little worried about you. You go to the car. And there they are. Sitting in the ignition. Cold, hard evidence. Right where they said. And you feel it. That specific cold spike of shame right in the center of your chest. That split second where you think, am I losing it? Am I actually losing my mind? Here's what you don't know yet. They put them there. What you just experienced is the opening move of one of the most psychologically devastating things one human being can do to another. It doesn't require violence, it doesn't require anger, it doesn't even require the person to raise their voice. It just requires patience. And the willingness to slowly, methodically, deliberately dismantle someone's relationship with their own mind. Today we're going into the full psychological horror of gaslighting. Not the TikTok buzzword version, not the he didn't text back version, the real thing. The clinical thing. The thing that has driven genuinely healthy, intelligent, perceptive people to question their own sanity. And we're following Sarah, a woman who was sharp, grounded, and self-aware. Until she met the one person who could make her doubt all three. Stick with me. Because the most horrifying part of this story isn't what he did to her. It's how long it took her to realize it was happening. Before Sarah's story, the science. Because you need to understand how the brain actually builds reality to understand why gaslighting is so devastatingly effective. Your brain is not a camera, it doesn't record reality objectively. Every memory you have is a reconstruction, rebuilt each time from fragments, emotional state, and the most powerful variable of all, social input. What the people around you confirm or deny. This is called memory reconsolidation. Every time you recall a memory, it becomes temporarily unstable, open to being rewritten. And the most powerful thing that can rewrite it, the confident, consistent testimony of someone you trust. Think about what that means. Your entire experience of reality can have its files overwritten by another person's version of events, especially if that person is calm, certain, and emotionally important to you. Evolutionarily, trusting your tribe's shared memory was a survival advantage. Your group's collective recall kept everyone safer than individual memory alone. But it also means your reality has a back door, and some people know exactly where it is. There's a second layer. Your brain runs what researchers call a social reality monitoring system, constantly cross-referencing your internal experience against what trusted people confirm is real. When there's a mismatch, your brain experiences genuine cognitive dissonance, stress, anxiety, the desperate need to resolve the conflict. A gaslighter doesn't need to convince you they're right. They just need to make that dissonance loud enough, long enough, that your brain, which would rather be wrong than live in permanent uncertainty, eventually surrenders its own version. Stress the system until it breaks. That's the whole game. Sarah is 30. Forensic accountant, her entire professional value is finding the thing that doesn't add up. She spots inconsistencies in financial data, the way most people spot typos. Pattern recognition is literally her job. Real talk, she's one of the most self-aware people in any room. She reads people well. Her friends call her when they need the truth, because Sarah doesn't sugarcoat. I need you to understand this before the story starts. Gaslighting doesn't target the naive or inattentive. It targets people who are perceptive enough to notice something is wrong, because those are the people who need the most sustained effort to convince they're imagining things. Sarah was the perfect target precisely because of how sharp she was. She met Daniel at a work conference, attentive from day one. 3 weeks in, he'd already ordered her a book she'd mentioned wanting to read. They moved in together after 8 months. Her friends were surprised by the pace. She told them she'd never felt this understood. She wasn't wrong about that. He understood her completely. That was exactly the problem. Clinical psychologists have mapped gaslighting into 3 distinct stages. When you see them laid out, you're going to recognize them. Stage 1. Trivialization. It starts small. Daniel tells Sarah they're meeting friends at 7. She writes it down. Shows up at 7. Daniel is already seated, and says quietly, "I said 7:30. You might want to write things down more carefully." She checks her phone, 7 p.m. Clear as day. He glances at it. Shrugs. "I don't know what to tell you. I said 7:30. Moves on, no explosion. No argument, just a quiet, confident contradiction. And Sarah's brain, running its social reality monitoring system, files it under "maybe I misheard." One incident means nothing, but over 4 months, the dinner, the phone call she supposedly made, the plan she apparently cancelled, the money she apparently spent and forgot, each one individually. Forgettable. Collectively. A pattern. Stage 2. Withholding. When Sarah raises concerns, Daniel doesn't argue. He goes quiet. Sighs. Says, "I'm not doing this until you're being rational." And leaves the room. Psychologists call this closure deprivation. Your brain desperately needs resolution when something feels wrong, systematically deny that resolution and the anxiety escalates. An anxious, unresolved brain is far easier to rewrite. Sarah starts approaching conversations with Daniel the way you approach a sleeping animal you don't want to startle. Pre-apologizing in her head for things she hasn't said yet. She can find a discrepancy in 10,000 lines of financial data. But she can't find the words to explain why she's disappearing inside her own apartment. Stage 3. Countering. This is where it turns genuinely horrifying. Daniel sits her down one evening, tenderly, and tells her he's worried, that she's been not herself. Memory issues. Mood swings. He thinks she should talk to someone. A professional. Cope. And because Sarah has lived through months of accumulated small confusions, part of her thinks he might be right. That's the masterpiece of it. He didn't break her mind, he just convinced her it was already broken. 14 months in. Sarah is seeing a therapist. Daniel encouraged it. She's on anxiety medication. Daniel gently suggested it. She's reduced her work hours because she told her boss she was having cognitive issues, which Daniel had been telling her for months. She's less herself than she's ever been. And the terrifying part, she thinks this is just who she is now. Then one afternoon, while Daniel is at work, Sarah is changing the batteries in the bedroom smoke detector. She unscrews it from the ceiling. And finds a small wireless camera mounted behind it, pointed at the room. She stands there a long time. Just holding it. Her forensic accountant brain, the one she'd been told was glitching, unreliable, comes back online like a system reboot. She doesn't confront Daniel, she puts the detector back. Makes coffee. And starts thinking like the professional she actually is. She pulls 14 months of bank statements, cross-references withdrawals against her own memory. Goes through phone records. Emails. Calendar entries. The picture that emerges is not of a woman with cognitive decline, it's a 14-month paper trail of systematic manipulation. The money she spent and forgot, transferred to a secondary account in his name. The dinner she misremembered, her original calendar invite still time-stamped, still showing 7 p.m. The notes in her handwriting, she remembers now. He asked her to copy something down. She wrote what he dictated without reading it. She wasn't losing her mind, she was being systematically, deliberately, patiently robbed of it. Research consistently shows gaslighting victims are not weak-minded, not naive. They are overwhelmingly people with high emotional intelligence, strong empathy, and a tendency to take accountability seriously. Exactly the traits a skilled manipulator weaponizes. Your empathy becomes the tool. When someone you love tells you you're misremembering, your first instinct, if you're a compassionate person, is to consider they might be right. To give the benefit of the doubt. A gaslighter counts on that. They need your self-doubt to have somewhere to land. Researchers call the end result gaslighting accommodation. Victims don't just doubt individual memories, they begin to preemptively defer to the gaslighter's reality before any conflict arises. They start filtering their own experience through one internal question: but what would he say about this? That internal filter. That's the real theft. Not the keys. Not the money. The theft is the moment you start policing your own reality on their behalf. Lou, and from a neuroscience perspective, extended gaslighting physically alters the brain. Increased amygdala reactivity, your threat response, while prefrontal cortex activity decreases, your rational thinking. The brain gets rewired toward anxiety and away from clear judgment. He didn't just change what Sarah thought. He changed how her brain worked. Cool. Sarah left. She took the camera, the bank statements, the phone records and her 14-month paper trail, and she left. It took a full year of therapy to trust her own perceptions again. Some days it still takes effort. But here's what she said about the moment she found the camera. She said, "It wasn't relief. It wasn't even anger, it was grief. Because the person I needed to grieve wasn't him. It was the version of myself I'd let him bury." Real talk. Most people watching this will never experience gaslighting at Sarah's level. But gaslighting exists on a spectrum. And the lower end is far more common than most people acknowledge. A parent who consistently rewrites family history. A friend who always remembers arguments differently in their own favor. A boss who denies instructions they clearly gave. A partner who calls you too sensitive every time you raise a concern. None of those are the hidden camera version. But they all use the same mechanism. Quietly attacking your confidence in your own perception. Here is your pattern recognition test. 1 question. Do you feel confused about your own memory and perception, specifically around one person, but not around others? If yes, that asymmetry is the tell. Your brain is not malfunctioning globally. It is responding to a specific, targeted, sustained attack on its reality-building system. From one specific source. You are not losing your mind. You are in the presence of someone who benefits from you believing that you are. Your perception of reality is not something another person gets to vote on. Your memory, your instincts, your gut, they are yours. Not perfect, nobody's are, but they are yours to question on your own terms, in your own time, with people who have your interests at heart. The moment someone needs you to doubt your own mind to feel secure in the relationship. That is not love, that is architecture. They are building something, and you are the foundation they need cracked. Don't let them have the keys. Not to your car, not to your calendar, and not to the version of yourself that knows exactly what it saw. If anything in Sarah's story felt uncomfortably familiar, even a smaller version of it, drop it in the comments. You don't have to name names. Just tell me, what's one thing someone made you doubt about yourself that you later realized was completely true? I read every single one. Share this with someone who keeps second-guessing themselves around one specific person. They may not have the language for what's happening yet. This might be it. Subscribe and hit the bell. Next video is coming, and trust me, you're going to recognize yourself in it immediately. Trust what you see. Your mind is not the enemy. Catch you in the next one. Peace.